Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Michael, and as always, we're going to be getting into some more stories. If you enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and if you're new, I'd appreciate if you subscribed. Without further ado, let's begin. This story was made in the AITA subreddit by a user named Star Hates You. The post is titled, "I told my husband that this has nothing to do with him. 27F, and my husband, 27M, just had an argument, if you could call it that. So my brother just got a job and it's great, except he was immediately thrown into single fatherhood afterward. He has a daughter, my niece, who is about 6 months old, and he has no one to babysit her while he works, as the mother is suddenly not in the picture. He called me asking if I could watch the baby during the week while he works, only for a few weeks, since he knows I am a stay-at-home mom myself. I would have said yes, but I can't. I am pregnant and have 2 young kids of my own, one of whom does school from home, and I have to help her with it, which we are still getting the hang of because we just moved. By the time I'd be prepared for that, he wouldn't need the help anymore. He understood and asked if I knew anyone personally who could help because he was out of people to ask and wanted to try to avoid daycares, as he didn't trust them. He said he would pay and cover everything, but he urgently needed someone, and I said I'd ask around. I don't really have friends, and I don't know many people in general, as I'm very introverted. However, my Sil, who is 25, lives with us and was just telling me how she needed a job and needed money, so I proposed the idea to her. She immediately agreed, so I put her and my brother in a group chat to talk, and I also brought my brother over to the house to have a face-to-face conversation about it. Now, they're not strangers, of course, they've met before and all, so it wasn't awkward. They talked about the baby, what was needed, etc. My brother didn't have a long-term plan mapped out at that point since everything was so abrupt, but my Sil was understanding and said she'd be okay with whatever, and that was that. I'm not sure of the other details as they text on their own, and it isn't really my business. It was up to them. Ultimately, it came down to my brother Ubering my Sil to his house early in the morning and then dropping her off at home and seeing how things go, which she agreed to. Everything seemed fine until the day of. My husband came into our room and blindsided me with all of these complaints on her behalf. He said my Sil had not eaten since the morning, that she wasn't comfortable, and that she was tired, and that she didn't even need to be there because other people were home and could have watched the baby, and that they only gave her $100, etc. I was confused because I spoke to my Sil while she was there to check on her, and she said everything was fine. So I told him she didn't say any of those things to me, and I asked her, and she said she wasn't complaining to him. I said to him bluntly, "So she is not complaining, you are complaining for her," and he said yes. I told him I was confused because he was throwing it all at me as if it were my responsibility, and that my Sil and my brother are 2 adults who made their own deal. That was up to her, and she agreed to it. Nobody was forcing her. If she was uncomfortable or anything, all she had to do was say it. He continued to repeat the complaints and said, "Do I have to get involved?" I told him the deal doesn't involve him, or me for that matter, and I don't understand why he's the only one upset here when it has nothing to do with him. They are adults. He told me he can't even have a conversation with me and left the room. I'm genuinely confused. Am I missing something here? My Sil is also confused as to why he even got worked up to begin with. Update. So since I spoke with my Sil and my husband separately and got nowhere, I finally got the chance to sit them down together. I was calm and respectful the entire time. I flat out said, "Okay, so in regard to the babysitting arrangement, what's going on? What issues are there and where are they coming from?" My husband made a scoffing sound and looked annoyed but didn't speak up. So I turned to my Sil and asked her bluntly, "Do you have any complaints, concerns, or problems with the arrangement you and my brother made for the babysitting?" She said, "Absolutely not." I asked her, "Are you sure? Did you say anything to husband that suggests otherwise? It's completely fine if you did, but you have to speak up for yourself and talk about it, even to me if not my brother." She said, "I honestly have no issues and I didn't complain to anybody, I swear." Then we looked at my husband. She told him that she was fine with the arrangement and had no complaints, then asked him why he had made a scene for no reason. He got defensive and said, "Nobody said you were complaining. It just doesn't make sense to me. There's no point in you doing it and it's not convenient. Are you even getting paid well?" I sat there trying to understand why he was getting so defensive, and my sill shot back at him, telling him it wasn't his business and that it didn't have to make sense to him, echoing exactly what I'd said in the first place, that it had nothing to do with him and that she didn't appreciate him doing this without a good reason. He said he did have a reason, and when we asked what the reason was, he said, "Because it doesn't make sense to me." I calmly asked him which part didn't make sense to him and why he was so bothered by it when it does not affect his or our daily life in any way. I told him it didn't have to make sense to him because it isn't his arrangement, and he got angry. He stood up from his seat, rambling something about how we were ganging up on him and that we weren't going to make him the bad guy and that nobody listens. My sill and I just looked at him while he rambled, and she was just as lost as I was. I, still very calm, asked him what he wanted out of this and why he kept trying to involve himself when my sill had clearly said she was happy with the agreement. He said, "Nobody freaking uses their brain around here but me, I guess," and walked out. I don't know about you all, but I'm no butt kisser, and I definitely wasn't about to chase after him or baby him. He was being completely ridiculous in my opinion. So we let him go, and that was it. About an hour later, he came back and started saying things under his breath like, "My own wife just let me walk out, and she doesn't even care about me, and it's just forget me, I guess I just don't matter," while sighing and dragging it out. I ignored all of it because honestly, grow up, and he came into the room and said, "So you have nothing to say to me?" I said, "Nope. We tried to address things and you decided to storm off, so that's that. I think you're being dramatic and that's a you problem." He then called me inconsiderate and selfish and left. Welp, I don't know what I'm supposed to do there or what he's expecting, but there's the update, guys. Final update. Hello once again. I know a lot of you wanted to know what's happened. With all the support from you all, I feel I do owe you that. Things have happened and I needed time to be alone, gather myself, and process everything. My husband kept up the attitude, the side comments under his breath, and just generally being weird. I gave no reaction and ignored it because I have better things to give my energy to, like my pregnancy and my 2 children. Anyway, I was cleaning and my husband decided to confront me and ask me why I'm acting this way. I asked him what he meant and he said I'm being a way towards him, and I simply told him I absolutely will not coddle him for an attitude that doesn't make sense for him to have. He got upset, rambling something about how, as his wife, it should matter to me that he's upset. I said I have done nothing to him and I gave him chances to explain what was wrong, but he didn't, so it's not my responsibility to fix whatever it is. He said this was all my fault, and I asked him, what is my fault? I've done nothing but take care of our kids and our home as well as him. I told him that he made no sense, that nobody did anything to him, not me, not my brother, not my sill, no one, that I wasn't going to deal with his attitude at all, and that he could find somewhere else to stay if he wasn't going to cut it out. He sat down and said, "That's what I'm talking about," saying that my lack of giving a shit and my no-nonsense attitude are upsetting to him. I asked him why I would want to put up with that, especially while pregnant, and why that would bother him. He started all this drama over something that had nothing to do with him, and then it came. He took a deep breath and broke down, confession after confession. He admitted he had an affair. He admitted that he had installed a camera in our home without telling me, in hopes that I'd do something stupid so he could use it as defense, and that he'd figured out the woman he cheated with knew my brother, which is why he freaked out about my sill working for him. He admitted he started drama to create an argument on purpose to give himself a reason to feel justified, and that my calm reactions to everything made that impossible for him. It bothered him that I never did anything wrong, because he had done something wrong and couldn't shift the blame. I could barely react. I just looked at him. My stomach was hurting and I couldn't wrap my head around any of it. He told me he was sorry, that he's a piece of shit, that he doesn't know why he did it, and that he loves me, tearing himself down. I just told him to stop talking. I calmly told him to remove whatever camera he had installed and to find somewhere else to stay. He cried and begged and I shut it down. He asked if I was going to tell my sill. "You're worried about me telling people or what others are going to think of you instead of worrying about the damage you've just done to our family." He left but wouldn't stop calling me, trying to talk. Suddenly, he wants to have a conversation. How funny. I put my phone on silent and went to play with my kids, trying to act normal to shield them from it. I didn't want them to see me upset. I was breaking down on the inside. I had a scare. I kept having sharp pain in my stomach, and then I started to bleed. I was terrified. I thought I'd lost the baby. My family helped me out, and I got to the hospital. The baby is okay. I guess it was just the stress being too much. After everything settled, I got home, put my kids to bed, and cried it out. We've been together since we were about 15. I've never cheated on him, ever, and we're approaching 30. What kind of behavior is that? I've never had a trust issue with him before. I'm not someone who snoops through phones. I just don't do things like that, and I didn't have a reason to. He's never behaved like this before. Maybe he has cheated before, and I just don't know about it. I don't even care to know. One time is enough for me. I want a divorce. I will be fair about it. I will not turn our children against him, and I won't drag it out. But I am done. Thanks for listening, guys. This story went bad really fast and had my jaw on the floor when the reveal came. His whole plan about setting up cameras to get dirt on his wife is just pitiful. My stance, as always when it comes to cheating, is to just immediately cut things off. And that doesn't change here. I don't think I'm a major proponent when it comes to stuff like karma and fate, but I can't help but feel that some sort of power was here to set the husband up in the babysitting arrangement. The entire event is just super unfortunate, especially since the two have been together since they were 15. But the one to suffer the most here is certainly going to be the child, who now has to bounce between homes to spend time with each parent.